Whatever our background, the colour of our skin, or who we love, we stand together. And together, we have a great future. Our politics may be under strain, but there is so much that is good about this country. So much to be proud of. So much to be optimistic about. I will shortly leave the job that it has been the honour of my life to hold. The second female Prime Minister, but certainly not the last. I do so with no ill will, but with enormous and enduring gratitude to have had the opportunity to serve the country I love.
I think for the first time ever, I see a politician crying and I genuinely believe them. Like, I genuinely believe it. When Obama was pissing his eyes, and, you know, it happened once, it happened twice, it happened 3 times, but at what point you have to look at it and say, you know, I watch movies, and I see actors pissing their eyes as well. Like, it can be done. You can have people pretending to have a crying outburst, especially when a video is pre-recorded. So I genuinely do not believe it. You know, I did not believe Obama for a second, but I'm telling you what, I believe Theresa May. I believe she's legitimately crying there. And I think the reason is that these people, and when I say these people, I mean the upper class, the ruling elites, basically. Especially the ones that don't have children, they care about one thing most of all. And I think that thing is summarized by Tywin Lannister in Game of Thrones. And it's like the most important thing is what you leave behind, the legacy. And she's not leaving behind a very good legacy, is she? She's not going to be remembered as a good prime minister now, is she? And to be honest, like, I don't know what happened, because I've been watching this whole Brexit scenario since the beginning. She started with very hardline stances. She could have won the snap elections, which she called because she noticed that the Conservatives are really high up in the polls. And she was talking about how if she's not going to get a good deal, then she's going to go for no deal. And it went so bad that the people from the EU said, yeah, we're going to negotiate with Britain, but anyone but Theresa May. Like, do not send Theresa May to us, right? And that's what she should have done. Like, when she got there and they handed her I wouldn't even say bad deal. They handed her an insulting deal. A deal that would basically get Britain to still be in the EU, but without having the right to vote. So they would have left in name only. In reality, they would have been like an EU colony. You know, that would have been an insult. She should have just torn it out in front of the camera. She should have torn out the deal and say, you know what? From now on, you can call me Theresa Mayhem, because I'm going to leave, no deal, consequences be damned. And once you leave and you get no deal, and you have like a clean slate, then you can start doing businesses. Then you can start doing agreements. I mean, agreements exist in nations that are outside of the EU. Do you realize this? Like, this is something that the mainstream media refuses to acknowledge. Nations which are outside the European Union still trade with each other. They still have like deals and businesses. You don't have to be in the European Union to trade. There are still ways that countries can often trade. But no, the mainstream media is talking about how, no, this is the end of the world. It's like, you know, like, I guess Britain leaves the planet and is going to be in a vacuum of space, you know, somewhere isolated from everyone else if they leave the European Union. So, obviously, the people at home didn't want to sign her deal, which I believe some British politicians called it as a capitulation. And they were right. It was a deal that only a nation who was defeated in warfare would have signed. And you also have, like, other people from the British government, like David Cameron was in the press saying that he was telling Macron not to have a good deal with Britain because eventually there's going to be a second referendum. And I guess we can see why there wasn't a second referendum, because people voted for the Brexit party. And it's quite astonishing, right? Because you look at all these documentaries about Brexit and the way that people say, oh, people were manipulated, they didn't know what they were voting for. Well, they voted again and they voted for the Brexit party, overwhelming in numbers. I think the mainstream media realizes that the Brexit party at this point is the lesser of two evils. Because it's just a party run by one guy, it's just a party run by Farage. So in a way, it's not going to partake in internal elections. Not in the current format, right? So the next time there's internal elections, it's still going to be the Tories and Labour. Whether if it was any other party, that would have been a problem for them, because now like the two major parties, the ones that are in charge of Britain, which in my opinion there's not that much different at the moment between the Tories and Labours. It's like playing World of Warcraft and you get to choose between Alliance and the Horde. Yeah, there's like a small difference here and there, but overall it's the same shit. And they really want the system. They want the same people to be in power. They wouldn't want any like of the upstarting parties to manage to gain power. And it's going to be very interesting to see in the new British elections, the internal ones, which are going to be the key players. That's going to be fascinating to watch. But yeah, so I covered this, even though there's not much I can say. Like, this was expected. Everyone probably expected this. And the reason I covered it is because it's a major news event. So I'm pretty sure people want to hear my take on it. My take on it, I'm not surprised. I'm not shocked. I think she managed to unite the country. She talks about how regardless of the race, of the skin color, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I think regardless of the political leanings, Theresa, you managed to get everyone to be disappointed in your performance as a politician. Literally everyone, even the people from the European Union were disappointed, because at this point, if European Union gets no deal, they will get angry and say, oh, for God's sake, like for this amount of time, you couldn't have just made up your mind. Because you have to understand, even companies, like corporations from the EU, don't like instability. They don't like uncertainty. Like big corporations like things to be certain. And for them, it's like, okay, no deal. I know that this is the case. We have some sort of deal, then this is the case. Right? But when you put them in a limbo and they don't know what's going to happen and the future is uncertain, it really pisses off the technocrats. It really does. So I think like even the people in the EU didn't like this uncertainty, which still carries on to this day, where we're going to see if they're going to get a no-deal Brexit or not. It is obvious that the EU doesn't want no-deal Brexit, because otherwise they wouldn't have allowed Britain to maintain a couple of more months, to delay Brexit. That's also an interesting thing. And now you have like articles in the mainstream media finally talking about the consequences for the EU of Britain leaving, something that was never discussed. But anyway, right, I'm going to start ranting on for too long. Just wanted to know that this happened. If you're a type of person that doesn't read the news and wants to know what happened in the UK, here you go. It also puts Trump in a very weird situation, I would say. Now he's visiting the United Kingdom, and usually when presidents go into another country, they're not going to sightsee. I mean, usually they do go to sightsee, because after they do their official visit, they get to walk around and enjoy the taxpayer vacation. But in the case of Donald Trump, yeah, he's going in the UK to probably discuss some business affairs, and he's basically going to talk with the person that's not going to be prime minister anymore. And it's like, well, damn, and it's going to be really uncomfortable. Kind of a wasted visit, I would think. And potentially, I think that he's going there in order to tell Britain that, yeah, like if you guys leave the EU, we got your back. We're going to give you good trade deals and stuff. Another interesting question is like, who's going to be prime minister now? Like, probably a lot of people are asking this. I heard a couple of rumors. Number one might be Boris Johnson. I think he was the mayor of London, and he's a Brexiteer. Speaking of which, by the way, I think Theresa May was the biggest threat to Brexit. Like, there's nothing worse than having someone that pretends to be a Brexiteer but not wanting it anyway. It's like getting a guy to sell your house when he doesn't want to sell it. Like, he's not going to give you a good deal. And the chances are, like, the danger is that the other person might finally accept the deal, and then you're stuck with it. But yeah, so Jacob Rees-Mogg, another person. I really like Jacob Rees-Mogg. He was a really well-spoken, very, very interesting British person that I enjoyed watching, until he said something that I considered incredibly anti-democratic and anti-human rights, especially when it comes to free speech and free expression. He said criticizing Islam has no place in British society. It's like, whoa. Like, he's not talking about criticizing Muslims, right? Not human beings. No, he's talking about like criticizing an ideology All right, like you can't have a free nation if you can't criticize ideas. I'm sorry, like I draw a line there. But anyway, right? Let me know what you think. Comments in the bottom section. I'll be reading them all, and hope you have a good time.